What's good, everybody? Welcome into the Early Edge, your daily sports betting brand of record. We are powered, as always, by the almighty SportsLine, the best value in all of sports betting, and it's not close. You know that this is one of my favorite shows of the entire week. Week 2 in the NFL. We had a really good week 1, coming off a great day at the brand on Saturday, 20-7 in our picks from yesterday. But this is about today. This is about the here and the now. We've got our noon kickoff show. Then don't forget tonight, 7:30 Eastern time, we count down to Sunday Night Football. Let's bring in the stars of the show because we've got a lot to get to. And, man, what I have at my fingertips today. Look at this. By the way, Alex, I feel like you and I are connecting today because I'm in wine country. I'm in the middle of California. You're a cultured individual, yes?
Yeah, I am, Coach.
Good morning to you, too. Now, a man that you would think, I can picture this man wine tasting and just going, with the pinky in the air. Sia Najad, welcome back to the Early Edge.
You would think by my look that I'm a wine guy, but the truth is I'm not, and I force my pinky down because I don't want to be that guy. So wrong and wrong. Hopefully you're right the rest of the show, Coach.
He's pounding whiskey. He's pounding all this stuff, but not wine. Can't do wine. Maestro, you feel like a wine guy?
I'm not a wine guy, but I do want to recommend Sideways as a great movie about wine country.
Oh, very, very good.
Remember that one?
Right. Yes, I do. I really, really do. All right, so here's what we do on this show. We go through every single game. We tell you what, from Tuesday all the way to today, across the brand, across the crew, what we have on every single game. We'll talk about it a little bit. Those that we have more plays on, we'll talk longer about. If we get to 300 likes, go ahead and pound that like button for me. My man Alex will give out the Goose Parlay. That is unique to our noon show. And then tonight we have the donkey on the evening show. If we get to 500, we have just a couple more Madden codes that we still need to give out. So if we get to 500 likes on the show, it should be pretty easy to do. We will drop those into the chat as well. I want to say hello to everybody that is being so active already in the chat. Take care of each other. AB is there. If you have any questions, he can take care of them as well. So we got you covered top to bottom. So gentlemen, if you don't mind, are we ready to get started? Yes? Yes? Let's get into it. All right. Now, first game on our board, Bucs Saints -2.5. And for those of you watching at home, some of the numbers may not match up. The numbers you will see from our cappers are numbers that when they gave the pick out. That's why you got to start watching the mega preview on Tuesday. So, Bucs -2.5. Right now, as a show, one play, RJ is on the Saints plus the 3. So, Maestro, why don't you start us off? Bucs Saints today, and Tom Brady historically does not play well against the Saints.
He doesn't, but and he's missing some guys on offense, and we all know about that, but the Saints will be without Alvin Kamara, and the Saints did really nothing for the first, almost 3 full quarters yesterday. I know the history. I know how Dennis Allen's defense schemes them up. I stayed off, though, just based on the Saints and not having Kamara.
How, from a prop perspective, Alex, not having Kamara affect everything else in this game?
It's significant, Coach. There's been quite a few developments as far as skill position players in this game. Obviously, Larry just mentioned Kamara. On the Bucs side of things, Julio Jones is just ruled out. That's a big loss for Tampa Bay, who's already playing without Chris Godwin. We're going to see Russell Gage sort of step into that role as the number 2 wide receiver and pass catching option for Tom Brady. Mike Evans, a really popular pick as far as fantasy and props go, but he's going to be locking horns with probably his biggest rival in the NFL, and Marshawn Lattimore, who the two of them have a very storied history together. So, yeah, I'll be really interested to see if Russell Gage, who was acquired in the offseason from the Falcons, can step up. He's had a bum hamstring over the last few weeks, but if he's healthy, I think he can actually be a real difference maker for the Bucs today, Coach.
See, can we have any trust? Because people love betting these quarterback props. They just love them. The Fighting Jameis Winstons. Last week, huge comeback, one of the biggest in franchise history in the fourth quarter. Can we have any confidence in Winston or any of these props from Tom Brady as well?
Not from Winston or Tom Brady, in my opinion. I mean, Winston's numbers were kind of game script dependent as they were playing comeback ball the whole time. But I do think some of these receivers are in play. I think it's interesting to note that Russell Gage's catch prop is the same as Mike Evans, is the same as Leonard Fournette. So he's certainly going to get peppered. All three of those guys are looking at around 4.5. The juice is different on all three, but I'm not really interested in Tom Brady. I mean, let's keep in mind that offensive line is really banged up as well, but I am interested in some of the short area guys. I expect Russell Gage to fill that role. I don't necessarily love the over 4.5 for Russell Gage, but his yardage prop might be in play. I think those types of receivers are in play here. I'm not looking at the quarterback.
All right, very, very good. So as a show, we are not heavily invested in this game, but as you can hear from all three guys, there's a lot going on in this game because of injuries, because we just don't know. By the way, a reminder, AB, our 5-tool player, he is in the chat. If you have any questions, drop them in there and he will answer them. Then we will also get to some that we will answer as well, but that's why we have him there. Game number 2, again, 7 early games, 5 late games. I love it when it kind of spread even like this. Don't you hate it when it's like 10 early and 3 late and you want to be able to spread it out? So Panthers and Giants, this is a very cool matchup because Maestro, when you look at the Panthers, devastating loss last week to the Browns. They really thought that Baker Mayfield would get the revenge that he wanted, but alas, the Browns got it done. The Giants also got it done behind Saquon Barkley being strong. So now there's a lot of hope in New York. You have them in what?
I'm fading the Giants as much as I love Brian Daboll. So many things went right for them last week. I mean, Tennessee coughing it up and Daniel Jones going 17-21 and Saquon running wild. And you look at the Panthers team, they should have won the game. The Giants lost a starting corner this week, Aaron Robinson, appendix surgery. Now you're going up against DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, who got behind the defense. I like the way Carolina picked it up in the second part of that game. The last point is that Christian McCaffrey, they said they are going to feed him, and they kept reiterating that as if we didn't know that. But Dontrell Hilliard was catching wide open passes, dropped a wide open one. Christian McCaffrey is going to have a huge game catching passes out of the backfield against this Giants team.
This is a great example of why you've got to watch our mega preview on Tuesday and every show leading up to it. As you can see, the game is now moved to a pick'em. When Larry put the game in, it was a +2.5, and now we can get an 8.5 teaser. If you teased it today, you wouldn't even get past that 7 number. So we tell you all the time, get the early edge. For a reason. All right, moving on to game number 3. And this is a game, guys, that has so much interest for so many different reasons. By the way, smash that like button for me. We need to get to 500, 300 for the goose. I need to see the goose today. So Dolphins and the Ravens. Got a lot of animals being thrown around right now. Ravens 3.5. Total 44. Uncle Dave is on Chase Edmonds over 3.5 catches. That is from our Friday Prop Spectacular that Alex is also a major part of. Sia is also a major part of. So, Maestro, let me come to you first. Because the Ravens last week, if you just look at the numbers and the stats, you're like, but it was rainy. It was not great weather. What do you make of this game?
And I just posted a pic on SportsLine about this game, but I want to tell you, you need to call on Alex. He's going to jump out of his seat. He wanted to chime in on those first 2 games. He had an extra thing to say, and he got passed over, and I'm feeling for him. So as soon as I'm done, could you throw it over to Alex, please?
Are we hosting the show too today, Maestro? I've got to get this show moving. That's the reason we go.
You know.
All right. I'll stop. Alex, what would you like to say on the first 2 games, sir?
I like Jameis Winston's over 31.5 completions, just out of pure necessity because Mark Ingram is very old and he's going to be leading that New Orleans backfield. I do think that Jameis Winston is going to have to up the volume and is going to have to throw the ball a lot. So that is just one prop I wanted to mention, Coach, when you brought up quarterback props in that Tampa Bay New Orleans game. And as far as the Giants and Panthers go, I actually think Baker Mayfield is due for a better game, just from the fact that the Browns pass rush was so effective in week 1, constantly in the backfield, really forced Baker to get rid of the ball quickly. I don't think that'll be the case against the Giants. I think he's going to have more time to allow routes to develop down the field. So I think we're going to see a much better performance out of Baker Mayfield. That's going to trickle down to DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson.
Well, let's make it 3 for 3. What do you like on the Dolphins and the Ravens?
I think this is a great opportunity for a Mark Andrews spike game. I think with Xavier Howard, he's going to be draped all over Rashad Bateman. I just think Mark Andrews is going to play a big role in this game, particularly in the red zone as well. I think he's going to be the focal point of the passing offense for Baltimore. J.K. Dobbins ruled out. He was expected to play. You're going to see Kenyon Drake get the start for Baltimore. Completely ineffective last week. I did think he's going to have a tough time running the ball. Also, Ronnie Staley, I believe, is going to be inactive as well for Baltimore. So they're going to struggle to run the ball. They're going to have to air the ball out a bunch. Xavier Howard being one of the premier corners in the NFL, I expect him to be glued to Rashad Bateman. So Mark Andrews is going to have to step up. I also think Devin Duvernay is a sneaky guy. Not expecting 2 touchdown performance, but I do like his yards over 30 this week.
Duvernay, double D. Let's go. All right, Maestro, let's come back to you.
Well, we saw the injury report. I talked about it this morning on the 10 a.m. show. Teron Armstead is in. That's a must for Miami. I like Miami to keep it close. The Ravens have not been good covering numbers over a field goal at home. And you look at what happened with their injury report. Marcus Peters is back for the Ravens, but he hasn't played since 2020. So how effective is he going to be? Brandon Stevens, a key corner, is out today. He played well last week. Kyle Fuller is out. J.K. Dobbins is out. I just think those Dolphins receivers, even against Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters coming back, are going to have success down the field. There's going to be a tight, close game, so I took 3.5.
See, I almost would want to take this down to 3. I know sometimes we like to buy half points. We don't like to buy half points. What do you make of this spread, and do you think that half a point, as Maestro just said, will matter?
Yeah, it sounds like it will matter. This one, I have a lot of questions about this game. It's a stay away from me at 3.5 and 3. And it's only because of what I saw on the Thursday night game last year, where the Dolphins sent everybody, like 0 coverage. And after quarter 1, after quarter 2, after quarter 3, into the fourth quarter, the Ravens just couldn't adjust. Now, I know they've had a year to adjust at this point. I'm just not 100% sure how this game is going to go. I do want to throw a little respect on McDaniel's name, because I think he is going to kind of scheme Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle into open spaces. I think that could be a problem. I don't have a problem with the pick here, Ravens minus 3.5. I don't have a problem with the pick of Ravens minus 3. But for me, there's just too much unknown here, so I'm going to stay away from it personally.
We do have one of our cappers, and I can't remember who it is, and I apologize I didn't write it down, that is on the over at SportsLine, which is 44. And they just thought that even though last week both defenses played well, that this might be, as you just said, maybe some open spaces, maybe some more points. I'm not playing the over. But if you choose to, then go for it. By the way, we always say educate and entertain. In the chat, we need to address something, because we want you to bet smartly, responsibly. And when I see this question, I cringe just a little bit, because I find myself sometimes falling into this trap. Brandon, if I'm going to go big on a bet, should I go Panthers or Commanders? Neither. Don't fall into the trap of 5% bombs of the week. They don't exist. Be the same across the board, especially week 2 of the NFL. You just don't know what's going to happen yet. So don't go big on anything. Stay consistent. Bankroll management. All right, gentlemen, this next one. Now, 2 weeks ago, we would have said, Jets, Browns, we can skip over that one. Not so fast. Browns laying 6.5. The total is very low at 39.5. Alex, Friday, you gave out a combo prop that you like with one of the running backs. Start us off.
Yeah, I love Kareem Hunt. I actually like all of his props this week, Coach, but my favorite being his combo prop, which is over 58.5 combined rushing and receiving yards. Last I checked, this had moved up to 60.5. I do think it's still playable there. Listen, Kareem Hunt was phenomenal week 1. Handled 15 touches, turned that into 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's eclipsed this line in 7 of his last 9 appearances dating back to last season, and every single game that he's handled double-digit touches dating back to last season as well. He averaged 87 scrimmage yards per game when he does receive double-digit touches. His rushing attempts line is projected at 8.5 with heavy juice to the over, which signals to me that he is going to be in line for double-digit touches today, which is certainly a good sign. Jacoby Brissett at quarterback for Cleveland. He loves targeting his running backs as well. Nick Chubb does not get any of that pass down work. So I do think Kareem Hunt will be the biggest beneficiary there and make a impact in the receiving game, which is why I like the combo prop. Browns just have an excellent offensive line as well. They're going to lean heavily on this two-headed backfield. Kareem Hunt is fantastic. Do not get it twisted. Just because he is the 1B to Nick Chubb's 1A, he is an elite running back in the NFL. Love his combination prop over 58.5 rushing and receiving yards.
I love it when you say, don't get it twisted. Do not. Other plays as a brand we have on the show. RJ likes the Jets at +6, but as AB just said in the chat, they have lost 13 straight games in September. I love RJ, but are you willing to bet that that game's going to stay within those 6 points based off of that Chick-fil-A nugget of the day, which they're closed on Sundays, by the way? I don't know. AB is also on the Browns team total over 23.5 at even money. That's where we're invested. So I know two of those picks may go against each other. Use the information and make the pick that you want to pick. It's your bet. Nobody's forcing you to do it. All right, moving on to this next game. And I tell you what, when I look at the names and I look at the picks that we have for this game, this is worth a discussion. Commanders get it done last week. I've never seen their stadium so hyped when they got a W. They're traveling on the road to Hard Knocks fame. The Lions last week getting blown out by the Eagles. Come back, they cover the spread. They lose by 3 this week. Now, as you can see, as a show, RJ is on the over 48.5. That's the one I chose to play. AB, Carson Wentz, our interception whisperer, over a half an interception of -125. Sia, start us off.
I mean, first of all, on this screen, I love pretty much everything on here, but I'm going to start with Amon-Ra St. Brown over 61.5 receiving yards. This is something I gave out on the Friday prop show with you, Coach, Dave, and Alex, of course. I mean, just if you look historically over the last 7 games for Amon-Ra St. Brown, only 64 yards last game, but he caught 8 of 12 targets. Again, that's 12 targets. The 6 games prior to that at the close of last season, 86, 73, 90, 91, 111, and 109 total yards. He is the big ticket guy for Jared Goff. This Washington secondary can absolutely get exploited. So I think Amon-Ra is in for a big game. We're not exactly sure what's going on with Deandre Swift. He is going to suit up. It looks like he's going to play with that ankle, but to the extent he's limited to any degree, the next best option for Goff is through the air with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's on the verge of breaking a couple records here, and I don't see him slowing down today.
And this is a fast track. They're playing in Detroit. And Detroit, hey, those players fly around the field. By the way, Brian in the chat said, is there a recap of this? Yes, at the end of the show, we will recap, but I would encourage you to keep track of them as they go because we go up to about 12:50 or 12:55. By the way, my man says, does Coach even look at the screen when he's hosting? Would you like to host? I've got 3 screens going on. I got a million things to do as a host, but would you like to host? I didn't think so. Now, Maestro, another example of if people watched our mega preview on Tuesday, they can get your teaser. If they wait till Sunday, not so much. Explain that.
Yeah, the Commanders are favored even now at some markets at -1 because of the Lions' offensive line injuries. Ragnow, the Pro Bowl center, is out. And I just think with those weapons, Samuel and Dotson and McLaurin and Logan Thomas and on, this team will put up points. It's going to be a high-scoring affair. I just didn't think the Lions should be favored and took it up to 8.5. So, I feel very good about this leg of the teaser at the moment. Other bets I had, especially in the prop market, I did not get the closing line value, but here we did. This is going to be a fun, entertaining, high-scoring game.
It's funny because one of the things I like to do, because I do host a show every single day, is when I see numbers that I go in and I can still get them. Because you guys are so good, people watch our show and they change the number like that. One of those guys, my man Prop Stars. Alex, you have 2 plays that you gave on Friday. I would love for you to explain yourself today.
Yeah, so first up, we've got Carson Wentz over 238.5. This one has actually moved up, I think, a full 20 yards. It's currently 255 to 258.5 passing yards. That's a little too rich for my blood. Unfortunately, I'd hold off there. This game, though, Coach, pretty much checks every box I'm looking for. I want a lot of pieces in this game, which is why you see me on Carson Wentz, also Curtis Samuel, which I'll get to in a minute. And then on Detroit's side, actually, I do want to quickly bring up Deandre Swift. I think that Swift will actually play a similar role to last week. We saw the report that he would be limited, but it wasn't exactly an admission that he would be on a touch or snap count. He only got 15 carries last week, 3 targets in the passing game, turned that into nearly 200 yards. We saw his rushing line open at 60.5, crept up around 63.5 last night. Then this report came out from Ian Rappaport suggesting that he may or may not be limited, and it's since down to like 45.5. I personally bought in there. Haven't made an official play. Don't know if I will because this is sort of late breaking news. But yeah, just something to keep an eye on. I think that 45.5, even if he's somewhat limited, is a great number for Deandre Swift, who I really believe is one of the best explosive running backs in the NFL. My other pick in this game, which I believe you can still get at a decent price, is Curtis Samuel over 3.5 receptions. Listen, his ADOT coach was 1.6 yards. That is 1 yard from the line of scrimmage. While that may not sound like really great for real life football, that is phenomenal for fantasy and for props, especially because there's just a really high success rate when you're throwing the ball so close to the line of scrimmage. Led the team in targets last week, finished with 8 catches, 5 rushing attempts. He was one of the focal points of this offense. That was not a fluke either. This was certainly by design. Got a massive contract laugh-off season from this team. Ron Rivera loves him. They go back to Carolina, where he was used as a Swiss Army knife. And yeah, he's going to continue to be a significant player in this offense. I love him over 3.5 receptions. My favorite prop of his to tackle this week. So yeah, people are calling Curtis Samuel Debo light. Curtis Samuel was doing Debo Samuel things before Debo Samuel was in the league, coach. So if anything, Debo Samuel is Curtis Samuel light.
By the way, Alex, did you know that you are big in Australia? Did you know that?
I'm popular down under.
Yeah. I'm sorry. My mind sometimes. My man Max says it's 2:15 a.m. tomorrow, and you're up watching, doing the research with us. I feel like we should take the early edge to Australia. Let's take it on the road. Let's go to all the continents.
My assistant coach is from Australia. You know I have a personal assistant, right, Coach?
I did your contract. I know what it took to get you. Okay, I know what it took to get you. All right, gentlemen, we got to move on. We've got another game at 1 o'clock. And last year, if my mind serves me correctly, this was the matchup. Week 17, or week 18 now. Week 18. All the Colts had to do, the fighting Carson Wentzes, was go to Jacksonville and win, and they're into the playoffs. And they could not get it done. This year, Colts are laying 3 after tying. One of the most unique stats I've ever seen ever doing this is that one entire division winless, and 2 of them played each other. I don't know that I've ever heard of that before. I don't know that I've ever seen that before. But the Colts tied with the Texans last week. So the Jags, late, they had a lead, couldn't hold it. Washington wins. So the total at 43.5. You can see that Mikey is on the Colts -4. The numbers moving after he played. So this is a situation where if you played it, then you're going to lose a point. This is the business. Now, Uncle Dave's on Marvin Jones, longest reception under 18.5. And then, Maestro, let me come to you because you have a prop in this game. Talk to me.
Yeah, I just want to talk about that line movement. I mean, I don't think we knew all of how bad the Colts injury situation was going to be when Mike put that in. There were 4.5s early in the week, but with no Darius Leonard, no Michael Pittman, some other injury situations, the Colts look like they're up against it. All the money is on Jacksonville. Everyone and their brother is on Jacksonville plus the points at this point of the week. But, I hope for Mikey's sake and for all the contests I'm in that the Colts cover because everyone is on Jacksonville. And I like Christian Kirk. I mean, 12 targets, 6 catches, 117 yards. Trevor Lawrence passed for 275 against Washington. He's got a pass-happy coach in Doug Peterson, so that helps. They paid him a ton of money. He's clearly the best of these 3 receivers. No offense to Zay Jones and his, 8-yard routes. But Christian Kirk is the most explosive guy. Let's get him to 59 yards.
You remember when he got this deal and every executive behind closed doors says, what are they doing? Because they just raised the market for a guy that shouldn't have gotten that much money. That's just fact. But we'll see if he can play into that contract. By the way, how many of you are in the Circa Millions? You're in the Circa, right, Meister? You went out there, right? You and RJ, or how many guys?
RJ's in as well. Yeah.
How'd you do in week 1?
4. I have 2 entries: 4-1 and 3-2.
Boom. I can't wait for you to win that $1 million and take us all to Vegas. What? How much is the first prize?
$1 million, I believe.
$1 million.
And there's contests along the way. You know, you got to win a few weeks here and there. You can make more.
Yeah, I want to see with that big check that I'm behind you doing this. And all of a sudden, Alex comes in from the side, and he says, I love Zay Jones. Talk to me, Alex.
I do love Zay Jones. Yeah, I've come around on Zay Jones, Coach. Initially, when he was handed a 3-year, $24 million by Jacksonville, it was an overspend. However, after watching this guy more and more, he's really reliable. He's their best run-blocking wide receiver as well. I also was very impressed and encouraged after watching week 1. He finished second on the team in targets and yards, narrowly missed a big touchdown pass in the second quarter as well. He also has caught 4 or more passes in 7 straight games dating back to last season when he was a member of the Raiders. That includes a postseason game as well. He gets open. He's got a low ADOT, which again is good for these reception props as well. He's playing in an offense without a real dominant alpha wide receiver 1, Christian Kirk being the closest thing to that. So I think it's just his target distribution. His target distribution can remain pretty consistent in this offense.
What was that word, Alex?
Target distribution. Also,
Nice.
The Colts finished 22nd in passing DVOA in week 1. They were 17th last season. They've got injuries in their secondary. I do think this game could be a bit up-tempo. So, yeah, I really like Zay Jones. Over 3.5 receptions. One guy I want to mention as far as Jacksonville is concerned, Coach, they are down Michael Pittman. They are also down Alec Pierce. This was a very thin wide receiver group, even with a healthy Michael Pittman. So Ashton Doolin is going to probably serve as the 1A or 1B to Paris Campbell. I actually like this guy quite a bit. Got open a lot. He was getting more separation than any other wide receiver on the Colts last week besides Michael Pittman. So keep an eye on Ashton Doolin today. You can find his props in the low 30s as far as his receiving yards are concerned. I do think he's actually going to be, just out of necessity, sort of the Colts wide receiver 1 today.
It's funny you bring up his name because RJ made a pick on the morning show on Doolin. Boom. See ya. Talk to me.
A couple quick notes for you people playing DFS out there, which I think is most of you. Ashton Doolin is 3,200 on DraftKings, a guy you can sneak into your lineup, maybe as an alternative to Greg Dortch, who is also popular at 3,500. But the reason I wanted to chime in is Jake Glazer just reported that Jameis Winston has 4 fractures in his back. Now, he is going to play through the pain. Allegedly, it is very painful, but I just wanted to put that out there. That's just another kind of injury to consider. We knew he was banged up coming into this game, but this sounds a little bit more serious than we anticipated. And Jameis Winston obviously getting really unlucky with some of these injuries. I think just real quick from a fantasy standpoint, I mean, maybe even though Andy Dalton is the backup quarterback back there, maybe you want to pick up Taysom Hill, who is going to be slotted as a tight end in most of your leagues. I'm just saying you could really maybe take advantage of him being a tight end eligible and putting him in tight end, and he comes in and plays quarterback if Jameis can't go next week or the week after that. The final thing I did want to bring up, Carson Wentz, as far as his props are concerned, the passing yards, the completions, one of the defensive backs for the Detroit Lions is not going to play today. So Carson Wentz, if he is just average, and if the Lions are competitive offensively, I see him hitting his props pretty easily, or at least most of them.
All right. Boom. And that's what's called real-time stuff here on the Early Edge from one of the best in the business. Michael, good morning to you. Happy football days. Would not miss a show for any reason. Even if I'm late, just know I'll be here. Let's make that money. It's how we feel. But pound that like button for me. I need to get to 300 because Alex is chomping at the bit to throw out that goose parlay. Now, Brian, you asked for a little recap. We're going to do a little things differently. How about we recap the 1 o'clock games as we've gone through all 7. We still have 5 to go at 4 o'clock. But here are our plays that we've just given you from the 1 p.m. games. I believe we're going to try and do that. Yes, Jeweler?
I think we're missing a 1 p.m. game.
Oh,
did we talk Steelers?
We did not.
Pats?
That's why you're in charge of the show. That's why you're the executive producer. I had it right in front of me. You're right. I got excited. So one more game, then we'll do the recap. Patriots, Steelers. And there's a lot of interest in this game. How did I miss it? I don't know. RJ is on a teaser. Steelers plus 7.5. Bills -1.5. You can't get that Bills number anymore. That's been long gone. Dave's on Chris Boswell over 1.5 field goals. He feels like the defenses could stop the defense or the offenses. And for that reason, I think Pittsburgh, I think that's a good play too. A really good play. Maestro, you have a play in this game. Talk to me.
Yeah, I'm just shocked, though, to see the Patriots now laying a full field goal, as how bad that offense looked in week 1. But the reason is there's no TJ Watt. They're 0-4 without TJ Watt. The difference with him and on the field and off the field is really striking in terms of a defensive player. And also the Steelers only had 13 first downs last week in an overtime game against Cincinnati. They were very fortunate to get all those turnovers. So I do like the Patriots, but I like them at less than a field goal. And I love Damian Harris with Ty Montgomery out. This guy was the only other running back to play on third downs. He just needs 10 receiving yards to go over this. He ran about 10 or 11 routes last week, got 3 targets. We can get this in one catch, but I think he gets at least 2 grabs today.
I'm with you, Maestro. I'm shocked that on the road, the way the Patriots looked last week, scoring 7 against the Miami Dolphins, that they would be favored over the Steelers, who beat the Cincinnati Bengals, albeit not in convincing fashion. They needed a little bit of luck. All right, now those are the 7 1:00 games. So because the jeweler is a man of the people, he says, hey, Coach, let's give them what they want. Here's a little recap of our 1:00 picks. Now, this is everything we've given out all week from Tuesday, our mega preview every single Tuesday. You don't want to miss that. The easiest way to do it, there you see all of our cappers. And while it's up there, the easiest way to do it, either follow us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, turn on your notifications. Also follow us on social media. The minute a show starts, you get notified. That way you don't miss anything, because then you can get all the numbers just like we get them. All right, Brian, that was for you. And I think I like doing that in the middle of the show. All right, we have crossed the bottom of the hour. We are just about 27 minutes from the start of the 1:00 games. Again, there are 7 of those, but there are 5 late ones. It is a glorious Sunday in that respect. So the first late game, and boys, there is a lot of interest in this game for a lot of reasons. Trey Lance, apparently, he's a guy that we all would like to hang out with. 49ers, it's now 9. My girl Allison, I have so many early edge screenshots in my camera roll. Allison, it's not the first time I've been told people like to take my picture on screen, but hey, all you got to do is ask. All right, Seahawks, 49ers, -9, 40.5. Seahawks last week shocking the world because Denver doesn't know what they're doing, but they shocked the world. Now they go on the road to the Fighting Trey Lances. If he plays like he did last week again, you may see Jimmy Garoppolo step in. See ya. Debo. Let's go.
Debo, anytime touchdown, -103. You can get it at minus pretty much 110 or better at most of the books. Listen, this overall point total is pretty low, but the implied point total for the 49ers is around 25, depending on where you look. So I'm expecting a few touchdowns from the Niners. I'm expecting a bounce back from Trey Lance, but to the extent they get near the red zone, near the green zone, I think it's all Debo. You might think it might be Jeff Wilson, it might be Trey Lance, or maybe Brandon Ayuk. Doesn't look like Kittle is playing in this game, but really it's Debo. He lines up in the slot, he lines up out wide, he lines up in the backfield. He is going to get the high value touches when they get near the red zone. And so I think he is due, or he's good for a touchdown in this game. I like him quite a bit. The other one here, Coach, is Jeff Wilson under 13.5 rush attempts. I do want to just point out that the juice is on the over here. So I put this show out on Friday. I took the under. The juice in some places -130, -140 to the over. So I do want to caution you that there is some money on the over here, but I'm going to stick to my guns. I still like Jeff Wilson under the 13.5 rushing attempts. It's partly because of what I just said about Debo. I think he's going to get plenty of carries in the backfield like he always does when the starting running back is out. But I also imagine that Tyrion Davis-Price and Jordan Mason are going to be active in this game. Jordan Mason was excellent in the preseason. Do both of those guys, those young guys, have the trust of Kyle Shanahan? It sounds like it, because earlier this week, he did say he was going to go with the hot hand. Now, you have a Seattle run defense that's actually pretty good. And so when it comes to the hot hand, I don't expect Jeff Wilson to really establish himself early. I think that's going to provide room for Debo, for Jordan Mason, and for Tyrion Davis-Price. So I'm still on Jeff Wilson under 13.5 rush attempts.
Fantastic take. I love that. Even more than I did on Friday. Even more. Now, Alex, I see you sitting over there. I see you just saying, oh, coach. Talk to me.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent bounce back spot for the 49ers, for Trey Lance, for Debo, who did play well in week 1. I really like both of Sia's picks there. Yeah, and even though no George Kittle, I do think that San Francisco is going to be able to have their way with the Seattle defense. I think Brandon Ayuk could be in line for a big game today. I think if the Broncos were moving the ball at will versus the Seattle defense, had it not been for those 2 goal line fumbles coupled with the bad management at the end of the game, I really think Denver could have routed this Seattle team. I think they're going to get exposed by an angry San Francisco team playing at home. Obviously might not be the best weather conditions again, but I think San Francisco is sort of built to play in weather a little bit better than Seattle maybe. So yeah, I like San Francisco to bounce back here in a big way. I like Sia's props quite a bit, and I expect Trey Lance to have a much better performance.
Alex, chat question. Trey Lance over rush yards. I don't know the number. I know you do.
Yeah, I'd lean over on it. I do think that we're going to see quite a few. Sia mentioned all the running backs. 3 will be active today. That does not include Debo, who's also going to be running the ball quite a bit. I think we're going to just see a hot hand approach. So I do lean over on it, but I just don't think that Trey Lance is going to get necessarily the volume that it would be. I sort of look for quarterback rushing props when a team is trailing, when you have a mobile quarterback like a Trey Lance, like a Lamar Jackson. I think they kind of rely more on their legs when they're playing catch up. I don't see that being the case versus the Seattle team. I do think that San Francisco is going to be able to impose their will, and you're not going to see Trey Lance need to run the ball 12 plus times. So I just don't think the volume will be there. I lean over on it, but not something I'm playing.
Okay. Sia, coming back to you real quick. Flex, Pierce or Tanyan Dubes? Garrett Wilson. Your thoughts?
Wait, Pierce, Garrett Wilson. Who was the second guy?
I can't really. I don't
Romeo
know.
Dubes?
Oh, Dobbs.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. They misspelled it. I was like, what? All right. Yeah. There you go right there.
Yeah, that's definitely not the right spelling. I would go with Pierce actually in a potential bounce back spot here. I mean, I think Tanyan has some touchdown upside, but Dobbs with the receiver core getting healthy, that includes Alan Lazard. I don't think he's ready yet. No to Garrett Wilson.
Okay. Did I miss something from you, Maestro? You got that little look in your eye. Nothing from this game?
Nothing.
Okay. All right. I think it's just your NFL Sunday look that I always see. Just so damn excited. All right, moving on. We still got more games to get to, and the clock is ticking. Tick, tick, tick. Love having AB in the chat. Makes it so much easier for me. All right. This next game, amazingly, as a crew, as a team, we've got nothing on this game. Falcons and the Rams. Yuck. -10, 46.5. But, Alex, I know when we see a game that is what we consider a dud, what do we call it?
We call this a great proportunity, Coach.
Yes, we do.
Lots of player props in this game that I'm going to be keeping a close eye on or betting privately. Starting with the Falcons offense, I do expect a big bounce back performance from Kyle Pitts. Didn't really do much with his targets this week. I think this is a more favorable matchup. I think week 1 was certainly a fluke for him. So I'm expecting a much better performance out of Kyle Pitts. I also like fading Cordero Patterson quite a bit. His numbers have also come down a lot. Speaking of flukes, I think his week 1 performance versus New Orleans was arguably the biggest fluke of week 1. So I expect this Rams defense to impose their will and really shut down Cordero Patterson. Then offensively for Los Angeles, I'm expecting Cooper Kupp to continue to be Cooper Kupp. After watching week 1 with Allen Robinson, that was a play that I personally missed. It did not look good. While I do think there is some bounce back potential versus this Atlanta secondary, he just does not look like the same player that I thought he was. Obviously, there's time for him to turn it around. You don't want to overreact to just 1 week. But yeah, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on Allen Robinson. And then, yeah, I'm interested to see Darrell Henderson potentially keep holding off Cam Akers in that backfield. And he looks like he's going to be the focal point of Los Angeles' running attack.
John in the chat said it perfectly. Atlanta isn't good, but it's hard to swallow the Rams giving 10 points with the way they looked last Thursday. All right, moving on. Still got 4 games to get to. Clock is ticking. Cardinals, Raiders. -5.5 on the Las Vegas side, 51.5. The Cardinals looked awful getting routed by the Kansas City Chiefs a week ago. But as you can see, as a crew, we are heavily invested in this game. M Squared is on the Cardinals, plus the 6 when he gave it out. See ya. Let's just go in order. What do you like here?
Yeah, M Squared and I also heavily invested in DFS in this game as well. We do our FFT DFS show, and this was one of the big games. That Detroit-Washington game was another one of the big games. I like Marquis Brown over 58.5 receiving yards quite a bit here. He'll be featured for sure. Greg Dortch actually out-targeted him last week. That's going to flip this week. Kyler has actually stated explicitly that he's going to get Marquis Brown involved quite a bit. I expect a lot of design plays right off the bat, right on the opening drive, if not the first quarter, for him to potentially have 3 catches by then. I'm not going to take the receptions prop, although I think that's okay. I'm going to take the over 58.5 receiving yards. This is going to be a high-scoring back-and-forth game. I think Marquis Brown is going to exploit this zone defense that the Raiders like to play. He's going to find the holes. Kyler Murray is going to be looking at him. And frankly, the concentration of targets here is so narrow because of all the injuries. Antoine, we talked about it, right? The third receiver in line is this guy named Andrea Bocellia, right? Or Bocelio. And nobody's really ever heard of this guy. So it's really just Greg Dortch, it's Marquis Brown, it's Zach Ertz, of course, and AJ Green if you want to count him at 34 years old. So I think Marquis Brown is in line for a ton of targets. He should pass this total by a decent amount.
All right. Quickly, before I get to the Maestro, I missed one. Martin asked, Pitts or Schultz this week in fantasy? He can't make up his mind. Very quick to see ya.
Pitts.
There you go. Maestro. Now, you better hope that Derek Carr had a big breakfast this morning. You better hope that Derek Carr is feeling good because you're invested in everything Derek Carr today. Why?
Yeah, I am. And I actually really like Mike's pick of Cardinals plus 6 because I don't think either secondary is equipped to stop the other team. I think this is going to be 30-27. I can't wait to watch this game. Both secondaries are a shambles, but the Cardinals, especially with the way they just blitz, Vance Joseph, 58% blitz rate against Patrick Mahomes. Derek Carr historically thrives versus the blitz, also coming off a 3-interception performance for a guy that usually is very careful with the football. He said he was too aggressive. Maybe he was even too dialed in on Devontae Adams, who got 17 targets in week 1, but this is the home opener. This is what people have been waiting to see with the Raiders, with Adams and Carr reunited, which is why I do think Adams gets in the end zone. This is crazy, guys. It was minus 130 on Caesars when we started the show. I was seeing minus 190s and minus 180s, which you rarely see for anytime touchdown on a lot of other books. I just love Carr and Adams today, especially if Vance Joseph continues to blitz.
I could not even imagine laying 190 for a player to score a touchdown in the National Football League. It is so hard to do unless your name is Cooper Kupp. Well, I guess perhaps Devontae Adams. That's a lot of juice. That is, to me, not worth the squeeze. Alex, in 20 seconds, explain why Mike's pick is so good.
Yeah, I see I mentioned Greg Dortch led the team last week in targets. May not have a repeat performance of that, but there are just plenty of targets to go around. This is one of those game environments that I'm looking to get multiple pieces of. As I previously mentioned, I love this play from Mike. Also like his receptions. Opened at 3.5, up to 4.5. You can get it at plus money. But I expect Greg Dortch to be heavily featured playing in the slot for this Cardinals offense.
Boom. By the way, somebody mentioned your sweatshirt. What's on your sweatshirt today?
A waffle fry.
Waffle fry. Nike?
Only in the early Edge universe can you just say waffle fry and it's normal.
Yeah.
Only here.
Coach, we know that Nike is headquartered in the beautiful parts unknown. So we make quite a few trips over to the Nike headquarters.
The store?
Coach.
Yeah. Also, that little company called Adidas is also in the same vicinity. And if you guys have never been there and seen these two places, it will blow your mind. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. All right, we got 2 more games to get to. And there's only 15 minutes until the kick. We want to leave you 5 or so at the end to make sure you can get those picks in that you want to get in. But we still need 30 more likes if we're going to give out the goose before the end of the show. And I'm telling you, it's the most fun bet you could possibly make. It's the goose at noon. It's the donkey at 7:30, and it's fun. But we need to get to 300 likes. Just do it. Just takes 10 seconds. All right. This game is very interesting. I think before Dak got hurt, that you're like, man, I can't wait for week 2. Now, that's not the case. The only time you're going to see Dak is in that terrible Real Housewives commercial. That's it. Bengals laying 7, despite 5 turnovers last week by our man, with the Bengals. And they still had a chance to win the game, and they had their extra point blocked. So both teams very, very disappointed. The total sitting at a low 42 to be expected. Larry, how are you feeling about your teaser now? Because people can still get it at 1, I guess.
Yeah, no, I wish I had gotten it at 1 instead of 1.5. But either way, I think the Bengals win this by at least a field goal. I know backup quarterbacks have been great in terms of covering the spread. The other team lets down. We've seen it time and time again, and Cooper Rush is definitely competent. It's the rest of the Cowboys. You know, they lose another offensive lineman. They lose a safety, Curse, who's going to be very important in this matchup. When you talk about trying to stop Chase and Higgins and Boyd and all of the weapons, Higgins looks good to go. I guess we get the official word later today because it's a late start. But I just think after the 5 turnovers, they still should have won the game. Joe Burrow cleans it up enough, and they get the win. I also like them on the spread if it's 7 or less.
This is where, and I always like saying this when Mikey isn't on the show because I know how he feels about buying half points. But, man, this feels like the right spot to buy a half a point. I can see a 14-7, 21-14 game. But, Alex, let me come back to you because whenever you lose a quarterback, and we talked about it earlier this week earlier in the show, it affects everything. When you were in the lab, how did the Cowboys props, how were they affected by the fact that Dak will not be there?
Yeah, certainly a big impact going from Dak Prescott to Cooper Rush. However, Larry mentioned Cooper Rush is competent in his one start last season. I believe he threw for 350 yards. Cowboys won the game, had a couple touchdowns.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Had a couple touchdown passes as well. I do think that he'll be able to find some success. But yeah, with the injuries to this Cowboys offensive line, I do think it might be tough. Also, the receiving core is depleted. No Michael Gallup, obviously no Amari Cooper anymore. And I just don't think CeeDee Lamb is necessarily best suited to be a number 1 wide receiver. I think he's best when you have 2 perimeter wide receivers around him and he can function out of the slot. So I do think it's going to be tough for Dallas to move the ball consistently. But oftentimes you'll see with backup quarterbacks, they can come in, guys can get up for a couple games, and then it's over, a longer sample size that you see play start to drop off and deteriorate. So wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if Dallas is able to be competitive today against the Bengals.
Okay. We got 3 things left to do. We got to do one more game. We got to do the goose if we've gotten there. And everybody has an anytime touchdown because you in the chat, you asked for it. So we're going to give it to you every single primetime NFL show, which I consider this a primetime show. You'll get an anytime touchdown pick from all of my cappers. So let's get to our last game, Texans and the Broncos. This morning, they cooked my French toast very nicely here in my hotel room. However, last Monday night, Russ was not cooking in Seattle in his homecoming. It was not the game that he wanted. They just didn't look like they knew what they were doing. It didn't look like Russ was spending time with his receivers. Instead, he's hanging out at the U.S. Open. And somehow, the team that lost is laying 10 against a team that tied the Indianapolis Colts. Prop stars, I'm coming to you. Last week, we were all over Courtland Sutton, and they decided, let's not throw it to him till late in the third quarter. Let's do that. Why do you like him this week?
Yeah, last week he didn't get a target to, like you said, mentioned Coach. So late in the game, he still finished with 4 receptions for 72 yards. That was a quiet performance from him. I love him this week. I got him over 54.5 receiving yards. This has since climbed up to around 58.5 receiving yards. I'd actually still play it there. Ran up team best 44 routes on 45 of Russell Wilson's dropbacks in week 1. Also paced the Broncos in air yards. Had a bunch of deep targets. He's Russell Wilson's new DK Metcalf in this offense. This is an excellent matchup against the Texans as well. They gave up the 6th most yards to opposing wide receivers last season. Houston surrendered 9 catches, 121 yards to Michael Pittman in week 1. Pittman, in my opinion, profiles similarly to Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton, second year removed from this ACL injury. He's going to function as the number one option in the passing game, in my opinion. He just looks really good. His skill set just matches with Russell Wilson, who's one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. I just think Houston's a very soft matchup as well. So these two are going to hook up on some big plays. I love Cortland Sutton, one of my favorite props of this week. I'd play it up to 57, 58.5, where it's at right now for sure. Probably all the way up to 60.5.
I actually like the over in this game too. I really, really do. I think Denver's going to take the lid off, as you said, and I think Houston can score a little bit on this Denver team, at least based off of the defense that I watched on Monday night and was just cringing at every play and every fumble at the wall. Oh my God, I've got to let that go. Brandon says you guys have the best line somehow, always. No, we just do a lot of research, Brandon. This is our job. This is what we love to do. Our job is to find the best lines for you. That's what we do. Coach loves French toast. Julia, you're something else. I do, though. I really, really do. By the way, Brandon says Davante Adams is minus 180 at DraftKings now, Maestro.
Yeah.
How about that?
Wow.
Ridiculous. And I wouldn't play that. I was just at Caesars at 130. It's playable. Definitely not going over that for any anytime touchdown.
All right, so let's do the anytime touchdown, and then I assume that we got to 300. Yes, so we're going to give out the goose.
We did get to 300.
Thank you, jeweler. All right, so let's do our anytime touchdowns, and we'll close the show with the goose, and then we'll all enjoy cashing tickets all afternoon. Alex, start us off. 15 to 30 seconds, please.
Yeah, I've got Mark Andrews anytime touchdown. Get this at plus odds, where I think it's certainly playable there. He's going to be the focal point of this Baltimore passing attack. Without J.K. Dobbins, they're going to have to throw the ball a bunch. Xavier Howard's going to be draped all over Rashad Bateman as well. So I think there's a great chance Mark Andrews has a spike game this week, possibly scores 2 touchdowns as well. I'd look at his alt 2 TD line as well because I'm sprinkling on it.
Oh, a little sprinkle on the alt line. See ya. Let's go.
Last week I had Greg Dortch at plus 500. And oh, by the way, I kind of almost got there. But this week I'm going to be a little bit more realistic. I just texted Deebo Samuel and I said, PropStars said that Curtis Samuel was doing the Deebo before Deebo was doing the Deebo. I said, that's what PropStars said. And he texted me back and he did like the laughing emoji. So I really like this bet even more. I like Deebo Samuel minus 103 to score a touchdown. Bulletin board material from a half an hour ago from PropStars raises the roof on this bet. Let's go.
Can you imagine if that actually happened? One time Jason Day said in a commercial, he goes, hey, I saw the coach pick me. He did that like randomly. I couldn't believe it. It happens. They watch. These players watch. They do. Maestro, talk to me.
There's a reason that the money is pouring in on Davante Adams. When you talk about 17 targets, first home game reunited with Derek Carr, plus just the way he's been a red zone magnet his entire career. I mean, so with the game script, a high-scoring game, it looks good for Davante today.
All right, and AB is on Chris Olave, the young stud wideout from Ohio State, who, by the way, is my pick to win it all this year over Georgia. The Buckeyes are strong. All right, Alex, you've waited long enough. Give us the goose.
The goose parlay, coach. We've got 4 alt lines here that you can find on FanDuel. Get this at plus 250 odds. This is safe, in my opinion. I bet this myself. First up, Jonathan Taylor, over 80 rushing yards. He is going to continue to be the focal point of that Indianapolis offense. Next up, Davante Adams, over 70 receiving yards. This game has shootout written all over it. Larry mentioned 17 targets in week 1. I expect double-digit targets for sure from Adams. Mark Andrews, my guy for the anytime touchdown, also sprinkled 2 touchdowns. Over 50-plus receiving yards. I mentioned I think he's going to be the focal point of Baltimore's passing offense. They're going to have to throw today versus Miami. Last but not least, Mr. Consistent, Mr. Reliable, Cooper Kupp, over 80-plus receiving yards. He is a lock for that as long as he finishes the game versus the Falcons. Put these all together, plus 250, coach.
I am blown away that with all the defensive minds in the NFL, they cannot figure out a way to stop Cooper Kupp. It is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Ever. And by the way, can you imagine? Do you hear what Alex said real quick? He said, I even bet. Can you imagine if Alex came on and said, I'm giving you all these picks, but I haven't bet any of them. I don't bet any of them myself. Can you imagine if you said that? We know you bet everything.
And
all
more,
right.
Coach.
Yeah, and more. We know. You're on another level. All right. I like to end every one of these shows asking my guys exactly what they're most looking forward to. Because as a fan at home, You're looking forward to something. That's the anticipation. That's the love of the game. Alex, start us off.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, in the early slate, watching that Commanders versus Lions game. I mentioned how I think it's going to be a shootout. I wanted lots of pieces of it. And I think in the afternoon slate, similarly, Arizona versus Las Vegas, I think that's going to be a shootout as well. I'm expecting a ton of points. Good for props if you're playing over. So both of those games should be very exciting, Coach.
See ya.
I'm looking for bounce backs from week one, specifically from the 49ers, Trey Lance, Deebo Samuel. I love that people make impressions just from a week one, air quotes, trend. Those aren't trends. Those are just, especially in the Niners case, blips on the radar. I expect a big bounce back, not only from the Niners, but this Arizona offense too, to Alex's point. I think that's going to be an amazing game.
Maestro.
I'm looking to see if all this late money, and I'm talking about Carolina, Washington, New England, all these teams that have taken a lot of late money, if they're going to come through and cash in the early slate.
All right. Well, there's a lot of picks, a lot of games, a lot of research, a lot of work. But, man, we love doing it so very much. And we can't thank you all at home for being a part of what we do. It's all of us together, everybody. So, you see the recap, you see the picks, and you know it's 3 minutes until kickoff. So, with that being said, there's only one thing left to do. And I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these tickets straight to the pay window. For my entire crew, you know I love them all. Maestro, Sia, Prop Stars, Jeweler on the ones and the two, AB in the chat. We're here as a crew, as a team, as a universe on the early edge. See you at 7:30.